80%. Listen. How many do you have? 0. And how many do we have? Lots. There's a difference between 0 and lots. Excuse me.
Tens of thousands. When's the earliest? How many of the early manuscripts?
We have, when it comes to manuscripts, scholars have estimated 250,000.
Yeah, but through the ages, okay, fair enough. But I'm talking about early manuscripts. I'm talking about
a lot of them are
the
early.
prophets.
When
is it?
There's a lot of manuscripts which have been carbon dated.
What is the complete,
for your information?
The complete manuscript closest to the time of the prophet?
Let's say, for the sake of argument,
question. When closest, because we'll talk about one man's revelation, or it's his man's revelation that is the most important, of which apparently, though you can't take it, your eternity depends this man's revelation.
You're making again this kind of.
He's making a theory of textual criticism, which no textual critic ever adopts this theory. You're going against all scholars of textual criticism.
No, I'm talking about theology.
Yeah. No one argues in the way like you do.
Our theology point is your eternity.
No Christian scholar argues the way you do.
In Arabia in the 7th century, okay, and it came to him, and then it was written down. So a lot of his writing on this view, is it not?
How many gods reveal the Bible?
How do you know?
I want to make this question. How many gods reveal the Bible?
No, you're trying to.
Oh, one God.
You are trying to.
One God reveals the Bible, and one prophet gives the Quran. So is there a big difference?
You believe this is a miraculous book, do you not? You think it's somehow
you're confusing transmission with miraculousness.
You believe in it.
Lizzie.
Okay.
Let's go to the point of preservation.
You better be sure that what you're believing is what he
Lizzie.
Yes.
Let's go to the point of preservation. So we have
after his revelation.
So we have Quran that has been transmitted to us, and it has been transmitted for generation to generation. Various people call it mutawatir.
Yes, it was the first right.
And
But how do you know what they memorized?
Let me tell you. The Quran that has been transmitted to us is directly from the Prophet. From the Prophet. So, for example,
one man.
Listen.
One man's revelation. Right.
Jesus is one man or two men?
No, let's go back to this.
Oh, no.
Because you want to change the fact and you don't like being confronted.
It's okay. Jesus was two men.
Who doesn't like to be constructive?
So now,
let's
talk about.
Why are you telling lies about his motivations?
So let me give you an example.
Why do you lie? Why do you lie so much?
Hafs. Now we have. Wait. Is Hafs reading that we read today preserved exactly as the Prophet taught?
Good point. Is it?
And our answer is yes, for sure.
That's our claim.
Because we can demonstrate through chains of transmission of learning from our scholars, of our imams, of our qaris, who learned all the way back to Hafs and his teacher to the companions and to the Prophet. Everywhere in on planet Earth, we can trace this. So the question now is this: are there differences between the transmission of Hafs around the world? Give me 3 differences between the Hafs reading all the way back to the Prophet.
I want to make another point.
No, just this point. So now we're talking about Hafs.
Oh no, because
why do you want to change the subject now?
Let's finish this and move on.
You want to change the subject?
With that point? So he's saying that these various men have learnt all the way, but he can trace it right back to the Prophet, and it's been absolutely exactly the same. Now that's interesting because the Prophet himself forgot the Quran, did he not? Yes, if you look
What's
at
that got to do with the point?
He said, that reminds me of a surah that I've forgotten. Okay,
what is the relevance of that of the translation?
This is a very weak and childish argument.
No, it's not, because it's just one that you don't want to confront, because this speaks volumes to me about the reliability of your Prophet.
You're quite keen on his scattergun approach, aren't you?
Seriousness with which he chooses to remember the word of God. For example, here's another example. There were arguments, were there not, between the people who came after the prophets about which verses should be included in the Quran, which some people think that the verses of the Rajam, the verses of the stoning, should be included, and some didn't. So there are huge arguments.
Name these people.
Right.
The sum, you said
then
sum.
we can discuss.
I think, Mansoor, you know that it's...
No, name them,
you name
discuss.
them.
Right,
You are conflating several issues.
Okay, no, I
the point I was making is this.
You're saying that the transmission is absolutely reliable.
Yes.
And I'm saying
I will demonstrate that to you, God willing.
Okay, you know, the transmission is one thing, but your prophet
Not just
himself
half, all the 10.
forgot verses of the Quran and he actually forgot them. Now that's an issue. If this is the word
Why
of
I
God,
say it's a weak argument is this. Perhaps you need to learn.
Why would he forget that?
Lizzie, perhaps you
Why
need to
would he
learn.
do that?
Listen.
Because you know it's in your hadith, so
No,
you
no.
don't need to
When the
defend it.
Quran says, سَنُقْرِئُكَ فَلَا تَنْسَى إِلَّا مَا شَاءَ اللَّهُ, that Allah may make you forget some things except that He wills. Human beings can forget. But it doesn't mean that He's forgotten that soul. No. He remembers.
One
Wait.
more thing about Muhammad, he forgets the word
Excuse
of
me.
God. He forgets the word of
Excuse
God.
me, listen.
Okay, he's
Excuse me.
sinful and he doesn't know if he's going to paradise. Why
Lizzie,
are you following this man?
Lizzie,
Does
are you
that
married?
qualify
Are you
for
married?
it?
Does this question of your marriage has anything to do with that discussion?
No, but this
No, it
prophet
doesn't.
Has everything to do
So
with
don't bring
because it's
now
your
about
prophet
Prophet's character.
who had one experience, one
It
man's
would be very
experience
difficult.
in
Lizzie,
Arabia.
I
in
know
the
that
7th
you have
century,
difficulty.
on which all of your eternity allegedly depends.
Now
You have got the wrong
go back to
man.
the
Come
topic
to
now.
Jesus.
We want to talk about the transmission of the
Not
Quran,
revelation transmission.
not the character of the Prophet. So when you say about Prophet forgetting and so on, what you don't realize, what you forget, and fund the films, and all of your Christian friends is this. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before he
Why
died,
do you even pray for him? Why do you do that?
that's your...
Why does
Why
he need
is
your
he in
prayer?
subject? Why don't you let him complete his sentences? Why don't you let him complete his sentences?
It is another issue. Why do
Why
you
you
pray
keep
for
raising
him?
different
Why does he need your prayers?
No, she's changing the subject. She's changing the
Every
subject.
time,
Bringing up the subject
Lizzie,
of how you can pray.
Lizzie,
You know, very good propaganda. You do very good propaganda. Did
I
you
can
get to learn
clearly
this
see, because
as a
you're
technique?
incapable of continuing the discussion at hand, you want to bring everything else on the periphery. No, I'm not going to go there, because I am not one of those people
deliberately
who's going to
diverted.
fall into your traps. Right. So Lizzie, for your learning point,
You guys do these
in
tricks.
the last Ardat al-Akhira, the last year before the Prophet died, the Quran was read. The Prophet read the Quran to Jibreel alayhi salam not once, twice, from beginning to end. So when he read in front of the people from beginning to end, did he forget anything? No, twice in front of the angel of revelation. So now we know that this is a completely read, sealed revelation in front of the companions.
Shortly before he
And
died.
these companions,
Should I write it down?
listen, these companions are the ones who transmitted. So now I'm talking about those transmission. Hafs is a reading, a qira'ah, a transmission of this Quran all the way back to the Prophet. So now let me ask you about Hafs. Then I go to the other 9. Hafs reading that we have, is there or are there differences between the Hafs reading anywhere in planet Earth?
Internally.
Are there? So are the Hafs?
Accidentally goes from you.
So now you can trace the reading of Hafs bin Sulaiman. Yeah, Hafs bin Sulaiman.
What about Wash though? You're not mentioning
He's coming to it. He's coming to it.
Yeah.
Don't you worry. Not
Al-Asadi
just Farsi.
al-Kufi, who learned from Imam Asim ibn Najud, who learned from his teacher, who learned from Ali radiallahu anh, from Ubay, from Uthman. Yeah. So from Ibn Masud radiallahu anh. So we have complete chain of transmission. So let me show you the example of Hafs reading all the way. No. I want to demonstrate how.
No.
He's coming to wash.
The thing is, okay, let me say, for the sake of argument, the Hafs, the transmission of Hafs is reliable. It doesn't change the fact that you have Wash as well.
We will
and you
talk
have
about
this
Wash
other
after we
version.
talk about
And it
Hafs.
doesn't change
Do you
the
want us to
fact
compare?
that you have different...
What other versions have we got? Does she know anything other than Hafs and Wash?
Do you want us to compare
Brother, one moment.
between
Now,
the Hafs and the
here's the
Wash?
translation.
Let's go back.
So even if Hafs is
Excuse me.
reliable,
Excuse me.
you've still got the
Just
issue of the
relax
Wash.
and listen
Now
to each
relax.
other. So we
The
can learn from
Quran
both.
has been transmitted to us by what we call multiple chains of transmission and multiple Qurra, famous readers. 10 of them are authentic, agreed upon by Muslims around the world.
Let him photograph.
Now these 10, let me tell you who these 10 are, then we can talk about them. Hafs is
But
one
listen,
of them.
okay, this is a good point. Can I just make it? So these 10,
No,
what
I have not
qualifies
finished yet.
you? What qualifies you
Wait.
to be someone who transmits? Well, you know, you have to
Lizzie,
be a man.
Lizzie.
You have to be.
Why
go
is
back.
the subject now to
Let's
gender?
understand this.
Now you're changing the subject to
So
gender.
actually,
So you jump from subject to subject as a technique, do you?
So we
want to talk about
have
these
Gender,
readers.
gender,
Let me
yeah.
tell you this.
Anything but the subject
So
at
you have
hand, right?
Imam Nafi al-Madani, whose reading has been transmitted by 2 of his famous students, Qalun and Wash. we have even the students of Qalun and Warsh and how they're transmitted. But I'm not just focusing on Hafs because that's the prevalent reading around the world today.
But the principle is for all of them. What he's saying,
all of them.
he's talking about all of them with personal examples.
You're being very unfair. Don't
Why are
worry.
you taking such a
Lizzie, don't worry. So you
it's a
have
complicated subject.
Imam Nafi', Ibn Kathir, Al-Makki, his two students Al-Bazi and Qumbo, and we have Abu Amr, his students Anduri and Susi. We have Ibn Amir, his students Hisham and Ibn Dhakwan. We have Asim that I've talked about, his two students, Hafs and Shu'bah. We have Hamza and Kisai, and they each have their two students. That's the 7. We have also 3 more. Abu Ja'far, Yaqub al-Hadrami and Khalaf. And they also have their famous 2 students from which the Quran came. What you don't know is this. For every reading, say like Imam Nafi'. Did Imam Nafi' read from his own whims and desires? No. He learned from his teacher, Abu Ja'far Yazid bin al-Qaqa, from Ibn Hurmuz al-A'raj, and Shayba bin Masar.
Okay, can I ask you
No,
a very
I'm not
simple
finished. I'm not finished.
He's giving the chain of transmission.
Understand?
No, you
Which
tell
is
me
what
this
you're asking about.
unfair,
They
he
learned.
does all of the talking and I don't get
No, because you make one point, it might require 5 hours to answer.
From
That's perfectly reasonable.
Abdullah bin Ayyash, Abu Huraira, Ibn Abbas, Zubayr bin al-Azam, who learned
No,
from
you made a
Ubayy-
complex point. It requires
Ubay
answer.
bin Ka'ab, who learned from the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now, this is the transmission of Nafi'. Warsh and Qalun are his 2 students. We even know, because this is how we've learned, their students, Abi Nasheed,
Okay.
Al-Halwani,
Okay.
and it continues like this.
So, but
for
still,
each,
right, can I make a point?
no, I have to make my point first.
Right, can-
For every
Right,
qira'ah, for every imam,
Another 30 seconds.
every imam that we
Another
have,
30 seconds.
listen,
That's your business.
every
It's not a
imam,
debate, it's just you giving
we
it to the
have
camera.
a complete transmission.
No. This is about correcting your errors. It's not about debating.
Complete
When somebody has
transmission.
knowledge, they can be debated with.
So when we're talking about, oh, this is Hafs reading, we are absolutely certain that this reading is learnt directly from the
So what
Prophet
you're
all
saying
the way.
is that the
all the way.
Hafs version is reliable, but the Warsh is not? Is that what
No,
you're saying?
no. So now for your
Is that what
education
you're saying?
and
No, he's
education
not
of
saying
fun
that.
Not
films
mentioned
is
Warsh
this.
at all.
Now,
Because there
He
are
mentioned
variants.
Warsh, but you are not
There are
listening.
variants.
Listen.
And also here's a,
Lizzie,
yeah,
Lizzie.
and also there are lots
As
of
I
differences.
said,
There are lots of differences
said the
between
same
the writings of these people.
relax.
I'm very relaxed, thank you.
So I started by Hafs
Why
and
are
I
there
give you a
differences?
reason.
Because we've got Qurans from these
Lizzie,
people.
Lizzie, listen.
We've got Qurans from these people and they have differences. There are differences in them, okay? Why is that so? If these guys are meant to be incredibly
Lizzie, you
reliable,
seem to be
why
very
is that?
reluctant
Just
to
differences have nothing to do with reliability.
what
You're
we
considering
believe
two separate
about the
issues.
Quran.
No, because I think
Instead-
you're uncomfortable with the
instead-
differences and you don't
That's
want
your
to.
I
psychological
said
state.
I will
Because it
talk
should
about
be
the
the
differences
same.
in a second.
Why should it be the same?
Patient.
That's just preconception.
As we establish,
Because
there
your
are.
authority is riding on this.
Listen, as we establish, the Prophet
No, it's not meant to be.
sallallahu alayhi wa sallam allowed multiple ways, 7 ways of reciting the Quran to his companions,
Not
who transmitted
26, by the way.
to their students,
Right,
who
7.
transmitted to their students, and all the way back to us. So we
So, but
focused
there's
on.
still one Quran.
Listen.
Yes.
How can there be one Quran,
Yes.
7
Different
different recitations, 7 different meanings? That's what you said. It's not just different
No.
dialect,
No.
7 different meanings.
Lizzie,
and yet make
you will learn.
written on one preserved tablet. I think your prophet is very confused
Lizzie,
about what he received.
you will
and it
learn
gets even more
soon
confused
if you
as
let
it
me
gets down
continue.
the lines of transmission. It gets even more confusing.
So,
Okay.
so
So which Quran are you reading when you are trying to study
All right.
to be a
Let
good
me just-
Muslim? This is a good point. When you are trying to be a good Muslim, trying to
I'm just going to
memorize
make one
Quran,
point.
which one are you reading?
I'll tell you.
Which one are you reading?
Very good question.
And
Question
how
number
do you
2.
know? How do
Which
you know
one
it's
do you
the
memorize?
right one? How do you know it's
Yes,
the right
yes,
one?
yes.
I'll just make one
Don't you
quick
want to
point.
be
Let me-
secure in that knowledge?
Mansoor, can you answer that question?
Yes, I'll just make one quick point. One quick point.
This is dependent. Your eternity depends on this book. Not my eternity.
Relax.
My
You'll have an
eternity
education today for fun the film.
depending on the death and resurrection of Jesus. No, I'm trying to.
Please make a
This
point,
is
otherwise you're going to just
I
roll on.
So my point, one quick point regarding the Quran. What we call the Quran as the authentic Quran is that which we can trace to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, this is the whole point. It is not about whether there are differences or not.
Can't you
Just
chase
allow me to
these
finish.
somehow?
Allow me to finish this sentence now.
Chase them.
Allow me to finish the sentence. We claim that these various readings are all traceable to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that he told us that these are all the Quran. That is
think
why.
they're all
Wait.
traceable to Muhammad?
Yes, and that is why all of them.
So what
That's
was
the
I
point.
trying to do?
That's the point he's making.
You know, Lizzie, you need
that's the
to
point he's making.
understand the point we're trying to make. What I was trying to make is this point.
Are traceable to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi
What I'm trying to make
That's
this
the
point.
point.
Out of this
So they all
10
authentic.
readers, right? Readers, and the transmitters that I talked about, I said, I'm going to give you an example of Hafs, because that is the prevalent reading.
Okay.
Let me finish.
No, you don't want to talk about wash.
Excuse me.
Talk about wash. Talk about wash.
Lizzie,
You've not talked about
this is a
wash
problem
yet.
that
Why
all
is this?
Christians
talked
have.
about wash, but you are not listening.
He's not talked about wash at all. He's not talked about wash at all, sir. He's talked about Hafs. Okay? Do you not think that wash is
Lizzie,
transmittable
no,
back to Muhammad?
okay,
Why
listen.
do you only go with Hafs?
Lizzie,
I didn't hear that.
listen.
What did you say?
I said,
I'll put it online. Don't worry. You will
I
see it.
said,
You won't miss it. I'll
all
let you
of
see
this
it.
10
Don't worry
qira'ah,
about it.
they are authentically transmitted to us from the Prophet.
All.
Every single of the 10
All 10.
we accept without a shadow of doubt. Each one of them is traced to the
So
Prophet.
they're all authentic.
They're all authentic. I only gave an example of Hafs.
and they're all the one Quran. And they're all the one Quran.
And I gave you
Sorry.
a tree of what we call isnad. So I want to show to you an example of how we are absolutely certain for each qira'ah. I'm going to focus on all 10 if you wish, but you don't have time because you can't really be silent for a while. Listen.
Between the Hafs and the wash.
Excuse
You're going
me.
off into a
Listen.
huge tangent here.
I
because you're
am
uncomfortable with the
proving
difference
to you.
between the Hafs and the wash. They're
listen,
there.
you know,
This is not relevant.
He just did.
Subhanallah, listen. I am now refuting your assertion
How exactly?
is that the
Because you're all
Quran is corrupted and not preserved. What I am demonstrating to you right now
It is
this.
not preserved.
Listen.
You have 26
How can I
different versions to
point it to you if you don't let me make my point?
Do you wanna know?
Lizzie,
Consonantal differences.
Lizzie,
not just vowelizations
I know you're
that
suffering from some kind of
change.
phobia,
No,
right?
you-
It's a phobia. Because you're not allowing me to make my point. What I'm saying is this.
Now he's
Every
attacking me personally.
single,
Yes, he is. Because
every
this is what exactly
10,
you're doing.
I'm never attacking person.
all
Just
the
to say
10, listen, all the
I
10
wish him the very
readings.
best in his life.
Listen,
Counter that.
Lizzie, all the 10 we have chains
That's a
of
standard
transmission,
Christian
right?
technique.
So if you wish, I can talk about wash. Now, what is wash? The reading of wash.
Yeah,
go
let's
back.
talk about the differences.
No. Let's talk about wash first. Because you want to talk
Yeah,
about
we need to
differences.
talk about the differences between Hafs and
No,
wash.
we need to know whether we need to talk about whether Varsh is authentic or
I
not.
get-
You're gonna end up
let's-
leaving.
Listen.
Listen. I think it's my turn to say
Excuse me.
that.
No. I am refuting your assertion that the Quran is not preserved. It will take a little bit of time. So if you're not willing to know how the Quran is
Interesting.
preserved,
When we started this discussion, he said, "Oh, we never say that the Quran hasn't been changed," and now he's trying to say it's perfectly preserved. I don't get where you're coming from.
perhaps you need to learn.
Okay.
Listen and learn.
I think he needs
so
to be
now,
consistent. It's not about me learning.
No.
things.
No.
You
We need to understand the point separately.
understand. Maybe perhaps some comprehension
No, we'll get
issues.
to the point.
But
Can we
here
get
it
to
is.
the point?
Here it is.
Let's get to the point.
The point is this. The point is
I have
this.
some examples here. I'd like to know your response.
Each of these 10 readings have been authentically transmitted. We can show you the transmission chain
For Varsh.
all the way.
But why?
You are
Just because
still
you know somebody's
interrupting.
name,
You're interrupting.
Does that make them authentic?
You can continue.
Why does that
No,
make
I
them
cannot
authentic?
That is the only
Listen,
test of authenticity.
Listen,
No.
Why does it make them authentic?
Because
What
it's
is it
this.
about them that makes
The
them
Quran-
authentic?
the
And the
Quran
fact is it's
to
all
us-
done by mouth. That surely is less
It
reliable
is not
than
by
writing
mouth
it down.
only. What you don't understand is this. That's why we ask you to go and learn. How many times am I going to tell you? Learn. And you cannot learn unless you just talk.
Okay, I know. Again, he's
Imam
making a
Nafi.
personal statement because he's
no,
confronted
you're never
by
gonna
a
Muslim,
Muslim that's making him
Imam
uncomfortable.
Nafi, from which the reading of Warsh came, right? Imam Warsh.
Can we talk about the differences? I've been
Excuse
asking
me.
this for a long time.
Lizzie.
It's like you don't
Lizzie.
really want to
Lizzie.
talk about this.
Lizzie.
Okay, if you don't want to
You
talk
are
about
not
this,
willing
that's
to learn.
fine. That's fine.
Lizzie.
But it's still something that you need to confront.
Lizzie, listen. How many times am I going to tell you? I will talk about every single
Muslims
differences that you
100
have, and perhaps more. If you
1200
so wish,
years
because
ago.
you don't know all of
It's
them.
all
do
been
you?
examined at
Brother,
least
one second.
1200 years
Do you know
ago.
all of the differences?
No, not all of them.
Exactly, you don't know.
I have some here written
you,
down.
You only got some.
I'm going to give you a few examples. I'd like to know your response to
Right. So what I'm asking you to be patient and understand that this Warsh reading is not something that has been made up. This reading of Warsh has been from his teacher Imam Nafi, who learned from his teachers.
And how do we know that that teacher was right? How do we know the teacher before
Because they've got
him
lots
was
of testimonies.
How do we know
It's
that the
fair,
teacher
it's
before
fair.
him
You asked
was
him-
right?
you asked him to explain to
You're
your
putting
boss
a lot
and
of
he's
trust in
explaining.
people who didn't write it down. Why didn't they write
No,
it
it
down?
was written down.
And yes, it was.
Listen,
So
it would be very difficult. In fact, maybe I talk to your boss, Jay Smith, there.
Yeah,
Shall I?
okay, go for
Okay,
it.
let's go on to the ladder. Because you're so difficult to speak to,
it's all right.
right? Because if you're willing to learn, perhaps I can
No,
ask you to the
listen,
subject.
Why
he's
is it?
trying
You
to
have to
explain
do
to your
that.
boss when he
Because
I don't do it
you
to
feel
I'm
a
asking you
phobia.
about- no, I'm
The
not
phobia
being
is this.
phobic about anything.
I am trying to establish point number two is this. The Quran has been preserved even with these 10 readings. Every single reading.
Right, can we talk about the differences now? It's tiring that you don't work-
Listen.
I'm just going to bring
The
it up.
difference.
I'm gonna bring it up.
The difference. We will talk, but I want you to understand why the difference is.
Have you got any patience?
Right.
You have.
The Prophet allowed Umar bin al-Khattab and Hisham bin Hakim to recite Surah Al-Furqan differently. You know our tradition, right? You've learned that, at least this tradition. You know about it, it's in your fund of films.
Yes, I understand.
Good,
the
good,
tradition,
good.
But I still don't,
Now-
you haven't answered my question.
Hang on.
But that's theologically
I need to-
problematic.
excuse
That
me.
There are these different
That's
versions of
problematic for you, not for
Listen.
us.
You know, and
It's not a
why
problem for
Lizzie,
us.
Lizzie.
trust someone that says, oh yeah, there are these two
Lizzie,
different
you
versions,
are
don't
not
worry about it.
able to continue the discussion, are you? What I am establishing is
You
this.
can't really answer the theological problem behind it.
Lizzie,
You
we
don't
will
want
go
to
through this.
answer.
We will go through. I want you to learn one thing.
There is no theological.
Because the Prophet allowed
I'm so glad you're interested in
Because the Prophet allowed companions to recite differently, they transmitted what they learned from the Prophet. This transmission comes to Imam Warsh and to Imam
Even the Prophet
Qalun.
doesn't learn it properly.
Excuse me,
perfectly.
listen.
How do you even trust that he got it right when he himself
Listen.
admits that some bits were forgotten,
Lizzie,
that some
you're-
bits were cancelled?
you're talking about this
that
again.
Some bits that he gets a word and it's abrogated.
And what was my response to that?
Why is he?
What was
why-
my response to that?
Why is he trustworthy?
You're going back again.
Why is he trustworthy?
What was my response to this? What was my response?
We already
You
responded.
went back to the chain of narration,
No.
which is
I
things
said-
like minutiae.
I
It's like
said-
you're trying to escape into minutiae.
No,
rather than
I
deal
said,
with
so you
the
have a memory
fundamental-
problem yourself. I said earlier on in response to your so-called objections.
Not doing very well.
Okay, what was my response then? If your memory is good, go and tell us.
I don't really want to talk about my memory.
No,
What I want to talk
important,
about-
important.
I've been
Because
asking
we are
you
talking about
lots
an
of
oral
times
culture
now
who translated the
to talk about-
Quran,
okay,
not only in writing but in memory. So now tell me,
I'm gonna
what
make
was my
these
response?
differences.
Lizzie, what was my response when you said, oh, the Prophet forgot? What was my response?
Oh, that he did the sermon where it was apparently complete. He spoke out the whole thing, he recited the whole thing in complete form, correct?
Right. I said, in his last...
I was listening.
Yeah, but you haven't fully grasped what I said there. What did I say? I
Isn't
said...
that? But then how can you say it was perfectly complete
Listen.
when he, the Prophet himself, says to his companions that he's forgotten some of it? I don't
When
understand
did
how
he
you
say,
can hold those two
okay,
things together.
Lizzie, let's settle this matter. When did he say he's forgotten something? At the last year before he died or earlier?
Okay, so you're trying to say that this was just before he died, that he did the complete sermon?
Yes. Before he died, he recited the whole Quran from beginning to end twice with Angel Gabriel. Yeah, twice. So the companions know exactly what was the last reading of the Quran. These companions were
And
taught...
none of the companions piped up and said, what about this bit that you said that you forgot?
No.
At the
You can't make
time,
these stamps.
but
There
they
were-
do- yeah, but they do
there were
know.
thousands,
Yeah, but
tens of
in
thousands.
the traditions,
So now-
that's
And there
what
were
they
tens of
do
thousands.
in the traditions. I
So
wonder
now
if
as you've
that
learned,
version-
There were tens of thousands of
the
companions.
Quran, they've learned the Quran recited twice by the Prophet before his death.
So he got like the
And,
definitive version.
and you've also learned that the Prophet allowed different companions to recite even the same chapter, even they were from the same tribe, differently. So when
Wait,
these
let's do some dates. So 570, Prophet's born in 570. 632. He dies in 632, right? Okay. So when's his last sermon?
631.
631ish. Okay. And when does he get his revelations?
What revelation?
Between 6,
The Quran.
the whole of the Quran.
Well, he gets some.
was the age of 40.
In Mecca, he gets some. Doesn't he? In Medina,
When he was at the
gets
age of
some.
40.
610, from 610, from 610
Is that the
to,
Mecca or the Medina?
well, in 610 he was in Mecca.
He was in Mecca. Okay. So
But
when did he
then-
get the Medina?
613, 622.
622. Okay, and he dies in 632.
Yep.
Okay, so he gets his final revelation 622, and he died. And
No,
the
no,
last sermon
final-
is like 631.
Didn't get his final revelation. This is where you're getting it wrong.
Okay.
The Quran is continuously being revealed. Continuously.
Is it?
Listen.
Throughout that period, yes.
For over the period of...
To the Prophet. Or to
Now
other
I
people?
realize why you call it a
And
new
the-
discovery and
every-
new research. Because
So-
your
The Quran
ignorance
is
of our
being
basic
You just said the Quran is being
knowledge of the
continuously
Quran.
revealed.
To Muhammad,
Yes,
to Muhammad.
that's it.
Quran was continuously
At that time,
revealed
Muhammad.
to the Prophet for over the period of 23 years.
This is well known, there's nothing new here.
This is well known.
And you
I'm
don't
not
know
surprised
this.
that you don't know, because
Wow.
that's the state of the fund of films.
Your level of
It's a new discovery.
knowledge is fine.
Maybe you should say that, I've learned new research. 23
Right.
years Prophet received the Quran, unfortunately to you maybe, but not to us. So,
But
as
what
the
he
Quran
did
was,
in
let
his
me
sermon,
wrap
he
this
gives
up.
his own completed version. He doesn't take into account that some of it he's forgotten, because that's in the Hadith. Some of it's been cancelled. He gets verses that are abrogated.
listen.
Some of it's even eaten by sheep, right?
Lizzie,
and yet he
listen.
decides before he dies that this must be the complete version.
yes.
I would say that he's still not very reliable.
Lizzie.
If he's just deciding, okay, this is the final version.
Now, whatever the Prophet gives us, we take the Quran from him. We don't take the Quran from Lizzie or from the films. We're very, very ignorant
Why
about it.
do you take it
Listen,
from Muhammad?
listen.
What is it
We-
about Muhammad that is so trustworthy?
we are talking about the
Nothing.
reliability of the
Show
transmission of
me
the
that
Quran,
he's
not
a
the transmission of
man,
Muhammad.
that he
Now,
trustworthy man.
now, what you're doing is this: you are now diverting the subject to the
Yeah,
trustworthiness
that's
of
right.
the
Let's
Prophet.
go back to the Hafs and the Warsh.
Right.
Tell me the difference
So,
between the
as I said, as those companions recited or learned from the Prophet to recite in different modes, some from ahruf. The Arabic word is ahruf. We can tell you what these differences are. From this, they taught their students, the tabi'in, and their students, and all the way to the reciters, the 10 reciters that we mentioned, right? These recitations of the 10 imams are all authentic. They're
How
all
do you know that?
Because-
Because of the change of transmission.
Because they're Muslims, because they're pious Muslims, and that's enough.
Because there were lots of
Is really
witnesses.
that enough?
Much better
Oh my
than
goodness.
the Bible.
Now,
Much,
zoom into
much,
this picture.
about 10,000 times better than
Brother,
the Bible.
No, because
This-
the Bible
this
has
is-
embarrassing
Now,
stories
I
in
want
it.
you to
Why
zoom
would
in this
people
chart.
do that?
Lizzie.
Because it's more historical, it makes
Lizzie.
it authentic.
Listen, do you see this chart? This is a chart of the transmission of Hafs reading from his student.
Is this right that you don't like Warsh? He's going back to the Hafs.
Lizzie, nobody's rejecting Warsh.
Do you not consider
Lizzie,
Warsh-
stop making excuses and accept
Do you
it.
consider Warsh
The
not-
same
Why do you
principle,
keep going to the House?
the same.
Lizzie, stop making excuses, please.
The same principle
Can
applies
I
to
tell
Quran.
you
Here's the evidence,
Okay,
accept
what
it.
was my answer about why I chose Hafs?
Because it went right back to Muhammad?
No, because it's the most popular one. It's the most
Because
popular.
it was the most prevalent reading in the world,
Okay.
right?
Just because
So what
something's
I-
popular doesn't
No,
make it the
it's
right
a good
one.
What I'm
example.
establishing
No, it's not.
is this.
But the same principles exactly
If I
apply
were
to all
to
of
take
them.
the readings of Yaqub, for example, or Hamza or Kisai, we can do the same thing. Charts.
Right.
And I have
Have you heard that?
charts.
This is the third
I
time
have-
you're hearing
I
this.
have charts.
The
for
same
many
principle
of them.
applies to all of
Look,
them.
Yeah, you can
what
show
I
me.
am.
You're not getting my point. Is that you can show
Lizzie,
me all the charts.
you're not
Yeah,
getting my
yeah.
point. My point is this.
Yeah, Lizzie,
How we can be absolutely
And how can you
certain.
tell me- Yeah, how can you tell me this? This is absolutely reliable. Each of these people are absolutely
Lizzie,
reliable.
you're just looking at
They've got
excuses not to
the right
believe.
message.
Because it has
Where?
been researched.
At the end of it, you
The
get
biography of those
26
people have been
different
researched.
Qurans. How can you say, oh,
That statement
one's
is
reliable,
false.
That one's reliable.
But there's 26
Okay, you don't-
Qurans.
Okay, let's talk
Now-
about the difference. Okay,
Wait,
let's
wait,
just
wait,
say-
wait,
Liz, don't jump, don't jump, don't jump.
Lizzie,
You're
You
running
still
away
don't
from the
wanna-
evidence.
You're running away from this.
You're
Lizzie,
running away from the evidence.
God willing,
I've asked
I
you
will
probably
talk about the differences.
10 times between the differences between the
Lizzie.
Hafs and Warsh, and you've still not gone there. I'm tired. Can we
Lizzie.
just do this? Let's-
Lizzie.
Okay, I'll give you some
No,
examples.
no, no, Liz,
Lizzie,
Liz,
Lizzie,
Liz, Liz.
Hafs, this
Liz,
is
don't try it.
one Quran, apparently
Liz,
there's
you're
one
here,
Quran.
you're here to jump to
Okay, no
conclusions.
differences.
Liz, Liz, look at the evidence.
Ali,
We're all
brother, one
reciting the same thing. We're all learning the same thing.
Sorry?
This
Okay.
is simply
Okay, give me
not
one
true.
example.
Okay.
One example.
Okay, so here we go. Surah
Just one
2.
example.
Yeah, Surah 2, Ayah 10. And Hafs, it's they lie. In the Warsh,
Give me the Arabic one.
they were lied to. No,
Give me the Arabic
I'm not
one.
going to give you the lie. No, no.
Because the Quran was not revealed in English. It's there in
No, you're running away.
No,
No, no.
You're running
It's
away.
there
and
on
you're
your
hiding
on your chart.
behind
You have to see the Arabic to see what it means.
Tell me the
Hide
Arabic.
behind the Arabic.
Because tell me the Arabic.
You know I don't read Arabic.
Sorry?
But this is the meaning.
It's there.
The point is
Here,
the
here.
meaning.
It's there.
No?
Oh, you haven't got it there. Okay.
Okay, let me
Now,
see if I can.
okay. Now, okay. Do you have one example of Arabic?
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
So,
She hasn't even read it herself.
okay. Surah 3, Ayah 146, Hafs is fought. There you go. There is the Arabic.
قاتل أن قتل.
There is the Arabic. Okay. Viswash and Al-Bazi were killed. Were killed.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Do you see a difference? I'm going to just have to trust you on that.
Wait a second. So what's your question on this one?
So there's a difference, is there not, in meaning between the they fought and were killed? That is a very significant difference in meaning. So which is
Since
right?
when?
But hang on, your prophet
Oh, you
says
haven't finished your question.
7 recitations are allowed, it doesn't matter which. He's allowing a very significant difference in meaning to exist at the same time. Your prophet is
What
very
is the significant difference here?
Lizzie, now that's why I wanted to go with you
So
step
what do
by
you say
step.
about those differences? Which version is correct? Is it
They are
were
not-
fought? Is it killed? Which
Listen,
one?
listen. For your information, maybe for the third time, every single reading that we talked about of these 10 imams, they are authentically transmitted from the Prophet. They are all acceptable as Quran.
Okay, so they-
Hang on, let me spell
but
it out
they
for you.
mean
Let me
different-
spell it out for you. Your question
Your
about
prophet is confused.
Excuse
I don't
me.
think he really has
Lizzie,
understood
Lizzie.
what he's heard.
Lizzie, listen. Your
You
question
misunderstand the
about
nature of the text.
your silly question, even after I made it clear that which version do you accept? Why do I say silly? Because I already stated every single reading of these 10 imams are authentic and they are acceptable. So you can come along with a million differences if you're able to. Listen,
you still haven't
Lizzie,
showed me exactly
Lizzie,
how they're authentic.
Lizzie,
You've not shown you just
Lizzie.
repeated again and again. They're authentic. They're authentic. They're authentic. Just
What
by
you don't
repeating
understand
it
is this
doesn't make
point.
it authentic.
What
And
I am
the
saying-
fact
I'll
that you
address
have
that
these
point.
two
Okay.
differences
All right.
of meaning means that something has
We haven't
gone
touched on
wrong
what the differences
along
are.
the way.
Okay, our brother has.
Not.
Okay, let me address that particular point. Okay, about authenticity.
Yeah, she's
The
answered
point.
it for
The
you.
point.
Vocabulary means that you use something in the translation. If you've got different words for things, they don't necessarily
Yeah, right. But the point about.
words and they
Thank you. Yeah, very good. Now, the point about authenticity, right? The point about authenticity, I'm sorry, is that he has been talking about change of transmission all this time, right? That is our criterion. We have two criteria for authenticity, okay? One is the oral transmission and the other one is the written transmission. On each of them, we have chains of transmission for all the different readings.
How
That
do you
is
know
our
those
criteria.
chains are reliable?
Because
That's
there
my question.
are thousands
That's what I
of
was
books.
trying to
There
do.
are thousands of
You're
no,
pointing
wait,
their
wait.
names.
That's-
How do I know
no,
those
wait,
people are
wait.
reliable?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
How do I
I'll
know
tell you.
that?
I'll
How
tell
do
you.
you know
I'll
that?
tell you.
You
I'll
don't
tell you.
know that.
I will
So
tell
if
you.
we've ended up with
I will.
these results,
I will answer
they're very, very
that.
different.
I will answer that. I'll answer that. The way we know is the biographies of each individual in the chain of narration. The biography of each individual in the chain of narration is known. Has been examined from the point of view of the truthfulness of the narrator. If there's any doubt.
Oh, so that's their truthful character. So you can tell absolutely whether or not
No,
someone is
you
truthful
can't tell
character.
absolutely what you can tell is you can tell within human knowledge. Okay, these are human means of transmission. Okay? The chains of transmission are human.
How can you really? How can you just look at somebody and
There is no
know that they're
in the
truthful
whole
character?
in the whole realm of human.
Nobody is
there is-
totally truthful in
Now-
character.
now-
Let's be honest.
well,
Let's be honest with ourselves.
Let's not be dishonest as
Perfectly truthful in character.
what you are being doing regarding honesty. What you're being doing is being dishonest about how history is done, how authenticity is established about
I don't
anything.
think I'm the one being
Yeah,
dishonest.
no, you're being. You see, because
I think
name me
you're
one
emphasising your history.
thing. Name me
By saying
one
as
thing.
long as they're truthful in character and pious Muslims,
No.
somehow everything that they transmit, it must be true.
No. There's
Okay,
that's
the
the only.
Bible is far
Lizzie,
more honest.
there's also-
It's
that
far
was
more
also the
honest
issue.
about being
There's also-
frailty.
trying to
It's
educate
far
you
more
on.
honest about.
don't have the Bible.
Yes, we do have the Bible.
There's
Let's
also-
return. Let's return.
Okay.
Now listen,
And
listen.
It has
Now
disciples
listen.
of Jesus telling embarrassing
Lizzie,
stories about
rubbish.
themselves.
Let's talk
okay?
about the Quran.
That's
the
much
rule,
more
the
authentic,
criterion
much
of
more-
embarrassment is a
it's
lie.
all- it's all-
There can be
Quran
no
is-
greater lie than the criterion of
it's all glossed
embarrassment.
over about people's perfection and truthfulness, and it doesn't ring true. It does not ring
criteria
true.
to accept some sort of transmission already from our own.
But let's come back. The reason why I was going through step-by-step of transmission history is to clearly answer those questions you eventually ask. How do we know they're trustworthy? How do we know they're reliable? But you want
takes
to know
time
the
to go through all of
differences. So what I was doing is
I want
this.
to know how you respond to the differences. Do you acknowledge the differences are there?
He himself has said that there are differences.
said that.
He said
He
there are
said
10 readings. He said that there are 10 readings.
He has a comprehension problem.
He just said there are 10 readings. He said that about 20
Did I not
times.
say?
Then,
Okay, one
Do you
question.
not see
Sorry.
that there's
No.
that
One
there's
question
a
I'm going to ask you.
theological problem?
I'm going to ask you one
There's
question.
a theological problem.
No.
If you want to be saved, if you want to do the will of Allah, and it's saying two different
No,
things,
you've got the wrong-
which recitation are you going to follow?
Whoa,
Which
Lizzie,
one?
Lizzie,
Like,
do you want to know the
it's
answer?
issue.
Any of them, all of them.
All of them.
And
Simultaneously.
they're
So,
not.
All
what you
simultaneous.
didn't know is this. I've been keep telling you is
All
this.
simultaneously.
Every single of these 10 recitation is mutawatir, is acceptable by the Muslims.
Mutawatir explain.
Lay must transmit it. Multiple chains of transmission. There's no doubt.
Corroboration.
Any error
Corroborated
within it,
chains.
right? So what I was establishing is
But
this.
you're still saying there's one Quran. I'm sorry, you cannot have. You
It's
can't
actually our
say
definition
there's
of the one Quran.
It's just totally
Our definition of the
Lizzie,
Quran is that which comes from
totally
Muhammad.
illogical.
Lizzie,
Well,
listen,
you say so.
let me give you an example.
Yeah, that's just you.
This Quran has a chapter called Surah Al-Fatiha. And this is recited by one of the Imams, Warsh. And this is how he recited. And it is
And
recited.
it says,
Excuse me.
whatever it is, fought. And the other one says, were killed. That's two different
Surah
things.
Al-Fatiha, yeah?
Which one are you going to
In
believe?
Surah Al-Fatiha.
I don't know the numbers. I don't know.
Do you know what number Surah Al-Fatiha is? It's chapter 1.
Okay, yeah,
Simple
that's
one, simple,
So
simple
right,
one.
so don't confuse it, chapter 2, 3 and 4. So when I said chapter 1, so
Okay.
Imam
Let me just
Warsh,
give you, it shouldn't make a
Listen,
difference. It
Lizzie.
shouldn't make a difference which
Lizzie.
surah it is. Okay, you can
what's
have
wrong?
Surah 210. What else could you have? You know, yes, this is what I was talking about. Surah 3, 146, fought and were killed. Okay, you can say Surah 34, 17, we punish in the Hafs, in the warsh, it's get punished.
Can
Okay.
just
brother.
In
Just
Surah
one
2,
person
in
speaking.
Surah 2, ayah 140, it says the Hafs says you say,
I've
and the
heard
warsh
them
says
all
they
in your
say.
3
It
previous
says they
videos,
say,
right?
Okay, it says Surah 2, 184, a redemption by feeding a poor man, and here it says a redemption by feeding poor men. Is it one man or is it poor men?
Do you want me to
There are
answer them?
lots of different.
No,
Do you want me to answer them?
Yeah, but what
Right.
we shall. Oh, here we go. Surah 2, 259.
Oh, carry on.
It's
You
don't
the
realise
Hafs,
what
we
this
shall
is.
raise
Okay, you know what? Give me 1,000. Give me 1,000. Sorry, that's not enough.
We shall
Give me
make
1,000.
Let her say
Give me
and then we can answer
1,000.
one.
There shouldn't really even be one.
Why not?
There shouldn't
Oh,
really be
so
one.
now you see what?
If, as you were saying, there's
Lizzie,
one
You
Quran.
cannot define the
Now,
Quran for us.
that's
You can't
you
define
see,
for us what the
The
Quran
Quran
is.
is not from Lizzie. The
Yeah.
Quran is from the Prophet who
Yeah.
allowed. I'm reminding you
Doesn't
again.
understand. He
Excuse
doesn't
me.
seem to
What do you mean he doesn't
Lizzie.
understand? Maybe it's you who don't understand.
One text.
Lizzie, listen.
Maybe you don't understand the
Lots
nature of the
different
Quran.
versions
The
of
Quran does not have to
Okay,
follow
and
your
yet-
rules as
let-
text.
one
and
person
yet,
speak.
You say it's
Lizzie?
the preserved tablets, not 7 preserved tablets.
Lizzie.
It's one preserved
The
tablet.
Quran does not have to
You
follow
a
your rules
theological
of what a
problem.
text is.
You have a theological problem with this one
If you
Quran
keep
business.
on talking,
And I do not think
if you
that
keep
you're
on talk-
Muhammad. I don't think Muhammad
Lizzie,
really understood
Can
what
it-
he
let-
was
You
let-
don't understand the
what
Quranic
you
text.
fail to realize is this. When the Prophet allowed to recite in different ways, were they exactly the same reading? Or were they reading it differently?
You tell me, they're reading it differently, and that's why then he comes
Okay.
on and goes, "Oh,
Was
no
this
problem."
hang on, was
Sounds
this
like he just wanted to stop an argument.
excuse me? Was this difference difference
you
enough to
assume
say there
too
were
much.
difference? Or were there no difference at all? There must be difference enough. When the two companions, Umar bin al-Khattab, Hisham bin Hakim, recited Surah Al-Furqan, when Umar noticed that he recites differently, was this significantly?
I'm trying to say, did it bother the Prophet? Did it?
It obviously bothered them.
You're not listening.
Why did they went to Muhammad? Why
Listen.
did they go to Muhammad to ask
What I
for
am telling
clarification?
you is this. Do you understand from that narration that there was a significant difference enough to say there's a
Okay, let me
difference?
ask a question, okay?
Excuse me,
I
answer
think
the question
I think what
first.
you're trying to say is actually, when Muhammad heard these different recitations, that he thought, actually, there's not much in it, I'll just let them go, okay?
No,
Not at all.
wrong
No,
again.
no, no,
Let me correct you again. These companions, what did they say? I learned directly from the Prophet. So, what happened? The Prophet taught them.
Yeah, why did he
Wait,
teach them two
wait,
different
slowly,
things?
excuse me.
Good
Because
question.
God gave
Good
them two
question.
different things.
Sure,
No,
what
no,
the
this is
right
from
one
God.
was. So
This is
he
from
did
God.
Why
it
are we
two different
confusing several
ways.
issues? First issue is this. Did
This is from
he,
God.
Interesting.
This is from God.
Lizzie, first education for you is
no,
this.
No, I think you should ask these questions that you don't want to ask.
I
your
am
Prophet.
answering.
The Muslims
Why
have
would
asked
he
these
teach
questions.
the kind of the same thing?
Lizzie,
It's an mention. It's an
I
mention.
am answering.
Okay.
So, for your learning, for your education, why did the Prophet allow companions to recite the Quran in 7 ahruf? The
I
Prophet
don't know.
explained
You'll
it.
have to. I don't know. Somebody explain to him why did he allow that?
It's
I
there in
think
our
it's very
tradition.
odd.
It's there in our tradition for 1,437 years. Did you not
why
know
did he
this?
allow it?
Hang on.
He's about
Do you
to
know?
say it.
Do you
He's
know
about to
this?
say it.
Do you know about this? Or is it going to be a new research and discovery?
Okay, well, just tell me, go on. then.
Okay.
Why did he
hang on.
allow it? Why did he allow
Do
it?
you know? I want you to say yes, I do, I don't.
I don't think I do. Go on.
Right.
Good.
Educate me. You're
Good,
keen
good,
to
good,
educate me.
good.
So, educate me.
That's advanced.
Very good. The Prophet allowed, he said, in my ummah, in my community, there are people who are unlettered. They're weak, they're old, and they're little ones. They're people who cannot even pronounce properly, right? These are statements the Prophet made about the people. Illiterate people, they're old people. We know there are people within several tribes within Arabia
People
who
are weak
spoke
in the mind.
Arabic. They could not, let me finish. We said, I want to educate you, let me educate you then. They could
Okay, you've got
not.
30 more seconds to educate me.
Why?
'Cause I don't-
Why?
Because this is a debate.
Your level of ignorance-
And
it's not a
otherwise
debate.
it
He's making
turns
the
into-
point.
The level of your
otherwise-
learning is only 30 seconds worth.
No, because otherwise it turns into a
can
monologue.
only
That's
learn-
not
He has to
fair.
make the point to
That's
make it
not
clear.
fair. He's already made most
So
of the point.
basically-
I
If
get
we're
his
gonna be
fair,
point.
if we're gonna be
I've
fair,
actually
we have
made
to
The
be
his
comprehension,
Talking about fair,
Yeah, so he's actually
brother,
done most of the
brother,
talking.
the
He's done
best
most
of
of
your
the talking.
comprehension is only what? Up to 30 seconds. You can't understand it more than that.
No, if you
So
can't make
maybe,
your point
okay,
quickly,
so very good,
that-
very
that
good.
suggests that
Hang
you're
on. So now what I've learned is this.
Not a
What I
good
will
point.
do,
Got a good point
I
to
will
make,
make
that's what it suggests.
30 second points for each point I'm going to make. There is no points to make.
No, don't make 37 points. That's not right.
Right.
Can
So
I
the
come
first
back
point.
to you? Okay, so you-
no, 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 no,
It's
no,
the Quran
no,
al
no.
Kareem. Deal with it carefully.
So the Quran, the Prophet allowed, because there are illiterate people, the weak people, the people who are unable to recite. So the Prophet allowed this
Sorry,
flexibility.
just because
You're
you're
interrupting me when I'm
illiterate doesn't
explaining.
mean that you can't recite. It's not the point. Muhammad was illiterate,
he was not making
and he
that point.
recited. Just because you're
No, no,
illiterate
no,
doesn't
no,
mean
no,
you can't
no.
recite.
He was making the
Why
point that
can
there
an
are
old
differences
person
amongst
not
people,
recite?
not
Okay,
that
Why
they
can't
can't.
a young person not recite?
Just to demonstrate to you, sorry, listen. My name is Mansoor Ahmed. Can't tell what's my name exactly the way my name is to be pronounced. Mansoor Ahmed.
So you are trying to get to a thing about this being about
No, 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 no.
accents.
Not only
Excuse me.
accents.
Go ahead, go ahead.
That's an example.
No, no. You said, why recitation? I will demonstrate to you.
This says.
Tell me that my name back. Mansoor
Mansoor
Ahmed.
Ahmed.
No.
Say again?
Okay, but hang on, wait a
No, no, no.
minute.
Say again.
You guys,
Excuse me, listen.
was I saying his name?
No.
Were you
You
pretty
said
sure that I
Ahmed.
was saying his
No,
name?
you said Ahmed. Ahmed. My name is not Ahmed.
Did you agree that I was saying his name?
No, my name is not Ahmed.
Did you think I was saying something different to your name? No, you
What
knew
you recited.
that I was
Oh,
saying,
very good.
Yes.
Let me answer the
So,
question. No, no, let me finish.
You are saying it's
Listen,
about accent.
wait.
You are
No,
saying
it's partly about
Excuse me.
right?
No.
Okay, when this is about me,
Lizzie,
It's also about meaning.
Are about me.
Every time you
when
get
you said, when I
refuted.
said Mansoor Ahmed, okay, if I'd have said,
But
I don't
I want to
know,
come to this
Joe
again.
Blogs,
Lizzie, listen.
that's totally different.
Lizzie,
but you
listen.
can mean what I was meaning.
Lizzie,
This
excuse me.
shows, these differences show completely different meanings.
To my point, back to my point.
So I'm sorry, this point doesn't wash.
Lizzie.
It doesn't wash.
Listen.
It doesn't address the issue of the fact that there are different
finished?
meanings.
Have you
It
finished?
talks about different
I will
pronunciations.
make a
It
point
does
about
not address
meaning in
the
a
fact that there are different meanings in
Lizzie,
these texts.
you objected to the reasonings why the Prophet allowed the flexibility in reading it in 7 ahraf. You said, oh, why would they have a problem with recitation? So you brought the recitation up. I didn't. You did.
No,
So
no, you told me. You
No,
told me that some
I
old
never
people
said
would
it
have
was
a
just
problem, that some
recitation.
young people would have a problem with
You see, you're
recitation.
confusing
She
ahruf
said,
and
so
kaf.
actually it's going to make different recitations from different people. That's the point that
You're
you were
confusing
making.
two different things.
listen,
You're confusing two.
recitation is not just recitation with accents, right?
Oh, so why did you do that exercise with me saying your name and then you said, oh, no,
That
no, you
was-
didn't really say my
that
name?
was nothing to
Because
do with
my
accents.
accent was a bit
That was an
different.
That was not your
let
accent.
him
That
answer.
was,
That was nothing to do with
illustrate your
accents.
point
No,
at
let him
all.
answer. Let him
So
answer.
that was nothing to do with accents. This is clearly your inability to pronounce certain letters properly. So my name is spelled.
But
Let me
did it
finish.
change?
Listen.
Did I change
Listen.
the meaning? But didn't you
I'll
all
do an
know that it
example
was
in English.
your name?
Example in
We all
English.
knew that it was
Okay,
your
here's-
name.
here are two
I
words.
didn't say a different name.
Listen.
I didn't say Joe Blogs. I said
you know his
your
point
name.
would have been finished
I said
about
it-
30 seconds
I
ago.
said it slightly different. I would have finished. He would have finished point if he
Yeah,
hadn't
no, if you don't
raised
keep
this
interrupting, let him
example.
finish
I
the
was
point.
just
Hasn't even made the
demonstrating
point.
to you and educating you with that. Certain peoples are incapable of uttering certain letters properly because just the way your vocal cord is trained. If you have enough training, perhaps you can. In Arabia, there are people whose vocal cord, like yours, were not accustomed.
This doesn't still
You're
doesn't
interrupting me again halfway
address
through.
that the meaning is the thing that's
Lizzie,
the problem.
Lizzie.
It's not your vocal cords. It's not how you pronounce it.
Lizzie.
It's the fact that these words
Regarding
are
the meaning.
totally
Regarding the
different.
meaning. Lizzie.
They're
No, no, no.
totally
Just
different
same
in
word,
meaning.
same word.
It makes no difference.
Brother, please. You keep forgetting that the differences between the two recitations I haven't touched upon. And you keep saying, why are you talking about only pronunciation, which I am not?
The difference
So
is-
if you are intelligently following this conversation through, I haven't specified the nature of the differences of these 7 ahruf. What I was demonstrating to you, what the Prophet said. What the Prophet
You're
said.
looking at the English. What
Right.
there are
What
differences
you're
in sounds
doing
in Arabic,
constantly again
but
and
they're very
again
similar. That's
is
the point.
trying to get
These are
a
not very
difference.
similar.
you-
These are totally
English,
different.
Lizzie.
These are totally
Lizzie,
different.
there are 7.
And yet you're claiming
In
you've got one
English,
Quran.
they're
You still have
different.
a huge problem.
You read them in Arabic, they're very
So
good.
when the Prophet allowed them to recite Surah Al-Furqan, was this Surah Al-Furqan or Surah Al-Furqan number 2? Was this surah called Surah Furqan number 2, version 2, or Surah Al-Furqan?
The one with the Umar example. the
When
one with the
Umar
example.
bin al-Khattab and
Listen,
Hisham bin
you know,
Hakim
please.
recited Surah Al-Furqan.
You know, I've been honest with you. I don't speak Arabic, so let's just
I spoke
cut
English
the
to you.
chase. Okay, you
I
just tell
spoke
me
English to
give me
you.
the numbers of the surah, please. Okay.
Surah 25.
Okay, thank you, Surah 25.
When Umar and Hisham, both of them, may Allah be pleased with them, when they recited Surah Al-Furqan, did Prophet say to them, this is Surah Al-Furqan, chapter 25, number 25a, and this is chapter 25b? Or did he say this is Surah Al-Furqan? This is the same surah.
I don't know. I wasn't
Same
there.
surah.
I wasn't there. But does it?
Our tradition tells
Yeah.
us it's the same surah of the same Quran. So you need to understand is this.
Yes,
There
but
is a-
he's told,
you're
he's
keep-
told the
you're-
Hafs
you're-
people, hang on,
Lizzie,
according to the
Lizzie,
Hafs
Lizzie,
people,
listen,
in
listen.
Surah 2, Ayah 10, he said they lie. But according to the Wars
Lizzie.
people, Surah 2, Ayah 10 says they were
It is
lying
very
too.
difficult to speak to
That is
people who are
totally
really-
different.
I'll give her-
What's really
let's
difficult
take
is that
one
you do not want to
about
confront
me.
this material. And you do not,
Before you go into
you
this,
do not realise that this shows that the Quran has been totally corrupted,
one second.
totally changed.
Excuse me.
Your prophet had
Excuse
no
me.
idea what he was
me.
receiving,
No.
and he was
Don't-
unreliable in his transmission.
Lizzie.
Say that you don't
Everything-
understand.
Yet another piece of evidence to show that his prophethood is utterly called a lie.
Lizzie.
Come on.
Whatever the Quran
I'm
prophet-
sorry that you
Gibberish.
don't want to confront
So
Gibberish.
if Jesus gave you
Gibberish.
If Jesus gave you a gospel that was written by St.
Jesus
John,
didn't give me a gospel.
If
The
Jesus-
gospel was written by his friends,
Listen.
written by
if
eyewitnesses.
Jesus
Not
uttered,
exclusively, but yes, it was
He
written
gave
by
you the
If-
gospel in his life.
if
That's well known.
He
Jesus-
he didn't transmit. This
Listen.
He gave the
You're
gospel in
amazing
his
woman,
life.
you are.
Listen,
Everybody, I don't know what
if,
you're saying. What
if
phrase-
Jesus,
what
listen,
word gave you
I want you to understand the comparison. If Jesus spoke about the gospel, he
No,
taught
gave
the gospel,
The
right?
gospel was his life.
He gave the gospels, which was
Okay, you've gone into
Wait,
Jesus now
wait.
because
No,
you're
no,
uncomfortable with
Oh,
this
come
material.
on.
Because
you
He's giving
are
an analogy.
failing to understand how this is one Quran.
No,
so
yeah,
when
it's because you cannot, you
Excuse me.
absolutely cannot demonstrate
Listen.
that you've got one Quran. You
Listen.
cannot
Listen.
do it.
when
The
Jesus
definition of one
gave
Quran
you,
is that which is transmitted from Muhammad. That's the definition.
when Jesus
There is only
gave,
one
makes
such.
it one.
Yes,
Right.
Brother.
That makes it one.
when Jesus taught
That
the
makes it
gospel,
one.
taught the gospels.
Try to understand
The
that.
Gospels were written down by several of his disciples, right? Every disciples that write, is this a different gospel of Jesus or is it the same gospel of Jesus?
Yeah, but the difference between
What is yeah, but I don't understand. Is it the same gospel or a different gospel?
The thing is, you're
And I want to understand.
You
When
believe-
several of the
Something
companions
falling out of the bag.
were transmitting what they directly learned from their master Jesus, right? They learned directly. When they are transmitting this gospel, is this gospel number 2, 3, 4, and so on, or is it the same gospel of Jesus? I want you to be clean and clear on this.
It's all the gospel of Jesus.
Is it one gospel or many gospels
No,
of
it's four
Jesus?
gospels. It's exactly
No, no.
four.
Is it the same gospel of Jesus?
How many gospels of
or-
Jesus are
Gospel. The gospel means good news account.
Is it the, listen,
How many pieces of good news are there?
Excuse me.
They're not all exactly the
But
same.
if it's written by
We don't-
him,
we
he's
don't
telling you if
pretend.
it's
Brother, please.
Okay. We don't-
Is this one
No, you're
gospel
not
of
letting me
Jesus
finish. You don't
or many gospels
we
of
don't
Jesus?
pretend that they're all written exactly the same. We don't pretend that. We don't make that claim. You claim that your Quran is one.
No. There's a mistake here.
So
Look.
actually,
The gospel, no. It says the gospel according to
I don't know
Mark.
about the Quran because
How many gospels
The
did Jesus
gospel
make?
according to
I've
Mark.
answered the question.
The gospel,
I've
the
answered the
gospel.
question.
How many gospels did Jesus make?
The gospel according to Mark.
We have four
The
written
gospel.
down. We have
Wait.
four gospels written down.
Just to
parts of
clarify
the
this
canon.
one. How
Parts
many
of the canon.
gospels
They
did
don't
Jesus preach?
exactly agree with each other
Excuse me.
because it's eyewitness. It's
Lizzie,
straight from history.
what's my question about
Right,
you?
thank you very
You know
much.
that-
They're written from four different
Let's have
perspectives.
one
They all
conversation
preach
and we all
exactly
listen,
the
right?
same
Jazakumullahu
message.
khairan.
They all preach
Lizzie,
exactly the same message.
here is the question.
Okay.
How many gospels did Jesus preach? One or many?
Jesus. Right, you're confusing. Jesus preached one message, the gospel.
How
Which, by
many
the way,
So you
is everyone
believe?
that God loves you enough to come to earth, and if you believe in
Okay,
Him,
brother,
says the
He
gospel
died
of all
for
you said
you,
you're going to listen,
forgiven
inshallah.
forever.
When you say the gospel,
Okay.
you're not talking about the, that gospel or not.
He preached one gospel message. Okay?
Please, brothers. So now,
But
Lizzie, as
Jesus
you have demonstrated,
But the gospels
as you
were
have
written
demonstrated-
by his disciples or eyewitnesses or close associates of the eyewitnesses, okay? And we have 4 of them. We don't pretend that
But this is
we don't
one
have
gospel of Jesus.
lots of different accounts like you have and pretend it's
Excuse me,
one.
Lizzie.
Okay, that's a totally
Lizzie.
different thing.
So you've just asserted
You're pretending
there
there's one
is
gospel, actually.
there is one
It says
gospel of
the
Jesus.
when
gospel.
did I ever say that? I didn't.
Did
I
you
said-
say one
The gospel writers say so.
Okay. How many gospels did Jesus preach? One or many? I'm asking you.
I don't know why you asked this again. I've answered your question.
Which is
I've
it? Which is
answered
it? One or many?
So the gospel message.
No,
that
not
he wants
message.
everyone-
No, not gospel message.
Yes.
How many gospels did
Great, you're
Jesus
giving
preach?
me a chance to preach again, which is the most wonderful thing. That if you trust in Jesus, this is the message. It's
Excuse me.
consistent.
How
It's
many
all
gospels did Jesus preach? One or
He
many?
answered you. I think you're playing with words, man. You're very cleverly playing with words. You're very cleverly playing
The
with words.
message is
she's going to
exactly
be
the
true.
same.
I'm going to give you
It's
options.
exactly the same.
In fact, I'm going to give you
Yeah,
options.
it's exactly the same.
To my
gospel.
question, how many gospels did Jesus preach? Option number A, one gospel. Option number 2, 2 gospels. 3 or 4. Which one? I've given you 4 options.
Okay, you're confusing 2 things. You're confusing 2 things. The message of the gospel.
I'm not talking a message.
The message that
I ask you again, how many
Message-
gospels
no,
did Jesus preach?
No, because
She's
you're
right.
trying to get
She's
me in a
right
trap.
in
I'm
this.
not
No,
gonna
she's
fall.
not.
As you realise, your game is up. Your game is up. So now let's return to the
No,
Quran.
he just doesn't like my
Okay,
answer.
so let's return to the Quran.
Return to the Quran.
I think you
Because
understood.
you're saying-
Your face tells me that you've understood.
Return to the Quran.
So
It
let's
doesn't absolutely it doesn't help your case. It does not help your case at all because I do not
So
claim
now, as you realise-
that those gospels
Lizzie.
have to be word for word the same. I do not claim that.
As you now
I
realise,
claim
okay.
you have one perfectly preserved Quran. Okay, and apparently
Lizzie.
it's not that.
As you now realise,
Contradicted in your hadith by the 7 recitations, and it's contradicted by the evidence of history.
keep talking.
Okay.
You're never going to learn. What we establish is this. Just like Jesus preached one gospel to his different companions, they may have recollected it differently slightly here and there, but it is the same one gospel. Using your coherent and consistent argument, if you are going to take that for yourself, the Prophet taught one Quran, but he taught this one Quran in 7 ways of reading to his companions, and each of them transmitted. Because we have criteria of acceptability, if they meet 3 essential criteria, directly trace back to the Prophet in transmission. It is in one of the Rasam of Uthman that he sent to the provinces, and it is
Interesting that Uthman had to
Stop
burn the variant version.
interrupting.
Why did you do that?
Stop interrupting when I'm making a point. Yeah. The third condition was it is acceptable in Arabic language, but the
Very interesting that he can interrupt me, but
the
somehow-
primary condition, the first condition is the transmission. As I said, these 10 readings have been authentically transmitted to the Prophet. Each one of them is acceptable as Quranic readings to the Muslims. So what that you are now giving me examples of, whether there's a difference between قاتل and قتل, يخدعون and يخادعون, ووصى وأوصى,
It's written the same.
نغفر,
All written the same.
you're interrupting when I'm making a point
They
again.
contradict each other.
Listen.
The variations in the
Listen.
Bible
No,
Listen.
they contradict
Brothers,
each other.
Be patient.
They contradict each other.
Listen.
Give an example of a contradiction.
Okay,
Every-
fought and were killed.
Please.
There's no contradiction. There's no contradiction.
Every
Why is that a
reading,
contradiction? Do you understand what the word
they are
contradiction means?
complementary. Hear the words from every single
Right.
Muslim scholar in planet Earth. They never contradict in meaning. Never contradict in meaning.
They are complementary.
You will never find.
Fought and were killed.
Listen.
I fight you,
Yeah.
I am killed.
Yeah, you
can
can
get
fight
killed.
and then to be
Totally
killed.
You can
different.
fight and be killed.
Listen.
You can
Wait.
you can fight and be
When you
killed.
fight, do you get killed?
You can. So what?
When people
where's the
fall-
One is active
Wait,
and one is passive.
Contradiction in
That is
meaning, right?
totally different.
There's
They
no-
cannot be active
They
You
are
said-
not
passive
contradictory.
at the same time.
Lizzie, you seem to assume there's a contradiction in meaning. What we are saying is
There's
the Prophet
complementarity.
allowed the differences because it's all from him and they're complementary. If you, one word you're going to learn from this conversation today, that these readings are complementary. When you fight each other in battle, you get killed and
Find
you
a
kill.
contradiction. I'm so
That's
sorry.
exactly the other
Find a
readings is
contradiction.
telling.
We punish and get punished.
Yeah, yes.
It's another passive active thing. We
Yeah.
punish.
Where is the contradiction
active,
meaning?
Where is the
and
contradiction?
get punished.
Where is the
Find a contradiction, dear girl. Find a
Okay,
contradiction.
does it mean the same thing if I
Yeah,
just put that in a sentence, get punished?
They are
and be
complementary
punished?
meanings. They are complementary.
When God says, for example,
We punish
listen,
children when they are naughty.
listen.
The
When
children
God
get
says,
punished when they are naughty. What's the difference in
God
meaning?
forgives you, or He, God, because now God is referring to Himself as a pronoun, He forgives you. Who forgives? It's God. So God can speak in the third person or in the first person. Is this contradictory? What kind of English are you
Find an
talking
example that's not touching
The
at
thing
straws.
the point is that my eternity isn't dependent on whether or not the four gospel writers said everything in exactly the same way. Your eternity is based on the trustworthiness of this man receiving directly
you talking
from
about
Allah.
trustworthiness?
Yeah?
Our eternity is dependent on the forgiveness
Do you
of
trust
Allah.
Jesus?
Divine words that you Muslims have argued. No, hang on. Can I just finish my conversation? Right. That Muslims have argued for years and years that we trust the Quran.
Do you trust
that
Jesus?
The Quran has never been changed. Okay?
in summary,
it's eternal.
can I-
Whereas your Bible
Absolutely.
has loads of changes in it.
It's not
Our
been
Quran
changed.
has
Quran
never
not
been
been
changed.
changed.
Not one change.
And I was going to demonstrate that to you,
And
which you
no,
did not allow me.
I am showing you
summary-
examples.
I am
after
about to
example
demonstrate
of how
that the Quran
has
was
been
not changed.
So
and
in
your
summary-
eternity isn't dependent on that.
What's the-
My
In
eternity
summary,
is
you are not
dependent
accepting a
on-
word that has three ways to read,
Okay, please.
but you accept a God that has three different.
That's a different. That's a
So
whole other
that's-
afternoon.
Lizzie,
you can watch my video with
Lizzie,
Mansoor on that. On the
Lizzie,
I'm not going to have it.
Lizzie, do you trust Jesus, the one man, the one God?
Oh gosh, here we go.
Do you trust him?
Okay, all right. You've had enough of talking about this.
No, I'm not finished
So
yet.
I'm
I
not
want to talk
gonna-
about the
I'm not
preservation of the
gonna-
Quran.
I'm not
I want to
gonna-
talk about the myth of the 26th
you're
Quran.
gonna-
because you
No,
told
no,
them you don't
if
trust
you're
him.
really afraid to talk about the 26th Quran, maybe get your teacher over
You
here.
wanted to suddenly talk
Excuse me.
about Jesus and the man and the Trinity
Douglas,
and all this stuff.
do you
and
bring
I'm
your
not gonna
teacher
talk
over
about
here?
that today.
You're Jesus.
Your boss has been giving you all this myth.
I don't have a boss.
This is your opportunity to learn.
Boss lives in
It's not
Cambridge.
even a boss. And a boss doesn't read Arabic. This is Bernie Power's work.
Ah,
This is Bernie Power's work. He's
do you admit to that? Maybe.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Sorry, I don't know.
Anyway. So what we were demonstrating is this: the Quran has not been changed, and how we were going to do this
How
is this.
can you say that after all of this?
Lizzie.
How can you say this? You can go and get your
know
only
how?
read about these 26 crimes is
Do you know
got
how?
in red and blue, the differences between this one and that one. There are changes
Lizzie.
absolutely all over it.
Lizzie, listen.
You cannot say anymore that your Quran has not been changed.
Lizzie.
It's simply false.
Lizzie, listen.
And
Are you going to listen?
No, I'm just because.
Are you going to listen to let me clarify
your
to you?
religion-
It
So
has
that you
the
can
same
Wait,
writing.
Your
Brother,
religion
listen, brother.
is based
Do it
on
again,
the
brother.
perfect preservation and perfect wisdom of this text.
Lizzie,
and it's been totally
You
changed.
keep waffling the same thing that you're talking about. You're not engaging with it. So what I'm saying is engage with it. Engage.
I am
Look,
engaging with it.
I have
you
look.
just don't like the material.
No,
you
no.
just don't like it.
No,
It's making
you don't
me
like the
very
material. Do you know
uncomfortable.
why? How many differences do you know? Only a few.
Okay, but we've only just got them.
No, no,
the
no, you-
research
no, no.
is just beginning. There's going to be
False.
hundreds and
False.
hundreds of
False.
differences.
False. Lie. I'm not going to say false anymore. Lie. Blatant lie. The research is not a beginning. Okay, let me tell you. Okay, let me show you that. This education needs to be done to you, right? Okay. These are tabulated tables, of course, tables of the 10 readings of the reading of Hafs in this column, beginning of chapter 1 to all the way to the end of the Quran, right? And this is Riwayah of Shu'bah. Hafs was one of the transmitter of Asim, and his fellow student was Shu'bah.
So there's differences.
Excuse me,
There are differences. But you still can't
Lizzie.
say there's one Quran. You just can't do
Lizzie.
it. You cannot do it.
Lizzie, brother, what I am educating you on this is this. Your myth of research is going to be put in the bin, down the drain. Do you know why?
Let's see
Do you know
about
why? Do you know why? Because these research that you're talking about from your ignorance now being enlightening of our tradition This has been done. Let me
Notice
finish.
how
Let
he
me finish.
insults me
Let
because
me
he's
finish.
panicking. He's panicking saying he
Yes. Do you know why? Do you know why I have to say that?
Tell me when I've insulted you.
Listen.
I don't insult you.
The only
just
way
don't
you
like
can
my-
respond back
don't
is by
like my
saying ad hominem
material,
attacks.
Okay?
Lizzie,
So you shouldn't be giving me
Lizzie,
ad hominem attacks.
what I am showing
both
to you
know
is
that that's
this.
not the way to go. is it?
Refutation number 3. That there will be more research. Brother, please. Brother, and you, brother, as well, please. Right?
I'm trying.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair. Refutation number 3 or 4, right? Your myth of learning and discovering and new research about the differences, it's going to remain a dream forever. Do you know why it's going to remain a dream forever?
Well, like I
because
said, let's just wait and see. Let's wait and see.
because this has already been done for thousands of years by the Muslims. As an example, I'm going to give it to you
So
now.
why
Let me
do
finish.
they go on saying there's one Quran if they know that strikes
Lizzie,
me quite deceitful.
Every time I correct you,
strikes me
you
as
admit I'm corrected and then say, why? So,
It's one Quran when it plainly isn't.
Lizzie.
That strikes me as that your
Lizzie.
teachers are not very trustworthy.
so you agree that your hope or your dream of research and finding new readings is never going to materialize. Why?
I agree with that.
Why?
don't
Because
disagree with that.
this has already been done. I'm going to give you some examples, and I'm going to
Okay,
talk
there's the
about.
Hafs and the Watch. What about the differences with the others? What about with the other Qurans?
You have no patience, do you? Look how big my folder is.
Yeah, I'm just giving.
Just look how big my folder is. So this is Hafs and Shu'bah. This goes all the way. Obviously, I didn't bring all of it. I brought one page to show to you that books exist long before you even came into Islamic apologetics. Yeah, long before you were even born. Okay, so I'm not making you into a child. I'm saying long before you were born, these differences were tabulated for every single differences they read.
My
Have you
point
finished?
again,
No, I have
why
not
do you
finished.
say there's only one Quran?
I haven't finished yet.
We know about these differences, and yet
Lizzie.
we've allowed our teachers to teach all you guys to effectively lie to
Lizzie.
you and say there is one Quran.
Lizzie, we talked about why one Quran. I refuted
I
you,
haven't yet.
and I debunked your claim, and then, right.
It's
Then,
not convincing.
Lizzie, now to move on to educate you. Look,
The
this is
gospel message has not changed.
Lizzie,
Jesus loves you, God loves
Lizzie,
you, He
Lizzie.
died for you, and you
this
can have peace with
sidetracking
him
is
if
not
you
gonna
believe in
it's not
him.
gonna help. Why?
I'm repentant
Because the
that he-
Quran is
He
preserved,
loves you that
and we
much.
will demonstrate to you even
And I'll
to
say that to you guys,
listen.
because he loves you.
Do you know
He
how
loves
the
you
Quran
too.
is preserved? Even to the a sound and the u sound.
Right? So the earliest Qurans, did they have vowelizations? Did they have that?
Because the earliest Qurans was
Okay, that's news to me.
listen. When the Quran
I
was
didn't think that was true.
listen, when the Quran was written, do you know why the Quran was written without the vowel signs?
Ah, so you're saying, you just made some vowels, I don't know Arabic, but that sounded like vowels to me.
I
Okay,
just
and
said
you're saying it's been
every
preserved
reading.
even with the vowels, and actually the earliest manuscripts don't have the vowelizations.
So how do
So
we
how
know?
can you say it's been preserved with those vowelizations?
Thank you very much.
Without
We've made
books.
so far. Right now, this is the question that you should be asking. How do we know? Listen.
Now let him answer it.
How do we know that even the a sound and the u sound is preserved? And that's why I'm going to come back to this in a second. That's why I was showing you these tables which you were running away from. So this is a table of.
I'm not running, no, I've got them, I've got
Wait,
them, hopefully,
wait,
I've got
wait,
them
wait.
right here. I don't want to run away from it at all. You want to run away from the
listen.
fact that they show that there's
Can
no
I
one
finish?
Quran, that
Can
they
I
have
finish?
two versions,
Can I-
at least two versions of the Quran.
Can I finish now? Thank you very much. Because you asked the question, how do we know they are preserved? Now, one of the readings has been transmitted by, like these teachers, they have two students, transmitters. And they have further transmission.
Yes, and you've said this point loads of times, and all of
I
them,
haven't finished. You keep interrupting every single time. And you
your
never
friend
learn.
Said, it's because
You
they had
never
true
learn
characters,
in
real
this
true
sitting.
characters. None of us can say that
Excuse
we've
me.
got a perfectly true character,
Listen.
and yet somehow you
Maybe
just
they have
take
the
it
Holy
as
Spirit.
read.
Can you allow
You
him-
just take it
can
as
you allow
read.
him-
Are you going to allow me to make my point?
You're not convincing me.
And then
You're
you
going
can
back
ask
over the
whatever
same
you want.
points.
I haven't
Thing is,
finished
Mansoor,
though.
you're going over the same
Lizzie,
points.
not convincing.
You keep on rudely
You know what, we've got
interrupting when I'm about to make a point.
It's definitely not convincing.
Yes? You don't find it convincing?
No, I don't
because
either.
You interrupt when I'm trying to make a point.
Because you're making the same points again.
I haven't made a point.
And they're not convincing. You're saying, we've got the differences here. And then you're still saying they're one Quran.
You will
Can I
I'm
look
coming
at
back
your
to
source?
you. I'm
You'll
coming back
never
to
Can I have a
you
look at your
saying-
source,
I'm
please?
coming back to you saying, you see, it's not one Quran.
in
Yes,
Arabic.
it is
I
one
wanna see
Quran.
the source.
So we're going around in circles because you
Lizzie,
cannot.
Lizzie,
I
listen.
don't think anybody's
Listen.
convinced that you
Listen.
just have one
Can I
Quran.
have a look at the
Recorded,
source, please?
They're going to get really bored with you. So don't make people to say how boring you are. Have a nice
Another
discussion.
ad hominem. How many ad hominems have we had today, Mansoor?
Okay,
You're not
okay,
normally
fine.
like this. Be nice today.
Lizzie,
Please.
Lizzie, do you watch
I
any?
don't do this to
Okay.
you. Don't do it to me.
Okay, Lizzie, do you watch any of these videos? Sometimes. Do you read the comments? Do you read the
I try
comments?
not to.
Read the comments.
I try not to.
Then you'll realize why I'm saying this.
Yeah, no, I think the
Right?
people who write
Do you know
about
how many comments I had to delete, which were done to you, very bad,
this-
rude comments?
Yes, now I wonder who
Wait,
wrote
wait.
those comments.
Very silly people, very emotionally mad people. But why am I making this comment? Because of the way you behave in our discussion. So I am saying is this. Let me make my point. Don't make it boring to the people who read this. Right. Okay.
I've not raised my voice.
No, you don't allow it. That's why. You don't allow it to be.
Since you haven't read
I
next
just
time.
challenge you on your points. and
Listen,
that's fair enough.
next time, I would not delete these comments until you've read them. Then I perhaps will delete them, with your permission, right? And I'll leave them, all these F words and B words and whatever words, I'll leave them perhaps. Because people think so highly of you. So my point is this.
I'm not under that impression. I'm
Listen,
not under that impression.
listen.
Don't worry.
Lizzie.
But it concerns me.
Lizzie,
that suddenly you
Lizzie,
think
hello?
that
You're
it'll make
running
your
away from the
argument
subject.
better. It'll make your
You're-
argument better by
Lizzie,
leaving nasty
you're-
comments about me on the
You're
Insta. I think
running away from the subject.
that's a very
So you
interesting
said,
line.
how do we know that this is preserved? So I'm giving you, this is an example of a reading from one of the 10 readings. His students, they are 4 men students. Abu Tahir.
Yeah, you've told me this again.
I haven't told you, I haven't mentioned the name Abu Tahir before.
Every time you mention something.
Subhanallah, I haven't mentioned Abu Tahir before. So I'm not, the first time or second time now.
Okay, you know
I'm
what?
telling you. Lizzie,
I'm not going to go because the thing is,
Lizzie, you need an education.
Stay. I want to listen to this. I want to listen to the source.
Thank you, Gary.
No,
the
stay.
Google.
I want to listen to the stay. I want to listen
Right.
to the source as well.
Thanks, Gary, the Google.
So let's listen to the source.
Right. So how do we know?
But you're not going to get the answer that way. So let's listen to the source.
Not giving me a convincing answer, and I've been here.
Yeah, let's have a
Trying
listen to
to
the source.
Right. So now,
Have you been brainwashed?
Lizzie? Okay.
So I'm sorry.
Listen. So now,
This one again.
here,
Okay, there's not.
Lizzie,
one Quran.
listen. If you are
No, there is.
incapable
That's
of,
absolutely true.
Okay.
if you are incapable of it, get your teacher.
Or listen
Get
to
your teacher.
anybody
You know what?
who tells you.
Sorry, I'll
there's
cut the
only
chase.
one Quran.
Get your teacher. Maybe I can give you
More
an
than one
education.
Quran.
Muslims, I'm sorry you've been lied to. There's
Excuse me.
not one Quran.
Listen, oh, now you're waffling again. When the evidence is about to be presented, you keep on going. Okay, brother. Okay, Gary. So what I was saying is, how do we know Quran is preserved even to the R sound and the U sound? Yes. Right. From this 10, oh, she's now disappearing.
Hey, come back here, lady.
She can't handle the We have this transmission taught by the Prophet directly to his companions, who taught their students, and all the way back to us. We have this unbroken chain of transmission. It is not one man, the Prophet taught one man who taught another man, and like this. No. These are multiple chains of transmission. An example here is this. When the Prophet taught, one of these imams who learned from him who wants to be Prophet, he had 4 turuq of 4 students who translate the Quran. I said here, Al-Fil, Zara'an, Abu Tahir, and Hashimi. We know that these students, how they transmitted, very diligently every single point, whether they differed or not. The table is too small because of the huge.
Okay, let me ask you.
I am not finished. Let me ask you.
No, but listen.
No. Let me
Have
finish.
you- did you listen to that?
I have to listen to reply.
Have you got
Gary,
documentation
don't
inside?
do the same thing.
Go on, let me
Right,
listen.
thank you, Gary.
And how long is it going to be?
Not very long if you don't
Okay,
interrupt.
okay, go on.
If you interrupt, it will be much long like Lizzie.
No, okay, you got 30 seconds.
So there's more than 40 or 50 transmission
Yes.
from this one of the reading Hafs from his teacher Asim. We know how one of the words, the only noticeable difference that is allowed from this more than 45 transmissions, chains of transmission, Da'af and Du'af, the A sound and the U sound. And we know that they both learned, all of them learned these both of the readings, Da'af and Du'af. So the reading of Hafs and
30
Asim,
seconds ago.
you're doing the same thing
You said
again.
you're giving 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
You decided to
So
give
what?
30
Who-
seconds.
No, but we can't have.
You decided
No,
to
we can't have a conversation with you.
Are you going to make an exit?
Yes.
Yeah,
Why?
because you're doing exactly the same thing. Oh, 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, but
Since
we have to
when-
have a time limit, don't we?
Excuse me,
No,
since
don't
when-
we agree we have to have a dialogue? We
Gary,
need a dialogue, don't we?
since when I
You
agreed
give
to a
me a
30 second
monologue.
limit? Gary, since when I agreed to a 30 second time limit?
What I said.
I didn't agree.
Well, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I'm now
Okay,
saying
okay.
it's my turn.
Okay,
You speak 10 seconds.
My turn now.
Your turn. I'll give you 10
Yes,
seconds.
in the arena.
Okay, your turn.
Put it on camera, he's gone.
I'll give you 10 seconds.
Huh?
I'm giving you 10
Right,
seconds.
okay, so go.
10,
Okay.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, one more 2, 1, 0. You're finished. Now can I talk?
Now
You did exactly the same to him.
Mayweather, knocked
Don't
you
talk
out
about
in 10
Mayweather.
seconds.
Don't talk about Mayweather.
Right?
Once
So,
Mayweather goes,
hold
let
on
do
a
anything.
second. Stop
I don't
a
want to
minute.
hold on.
Have you got your documentation?
You're here talking. I'll give you 30 seconds.
Stop.
I
You
don't
have
wanna
to get
talk.
your documentation,
Gary,
man.
Gary,
Because he
Gary, I
said
don't want to talk.
he's got
Gary,
transmissions
I don't want to talk.
from
Gary,
various
you're listening to reply,
colleagues.
not listening to
Let's-
learn.
Let's see him then. Uka
Let's see him, he will show you it.
Uka was a photocopy
Gary, stop
of
attention
whatever
seeking.
document it was.
Stop attention